Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of Dark Powerrr, where we talk about everything that happens on AEW Dark Elevation and NWA Powerrr. There's not too much to get to this week. Powerrr was a episode of Power Surge, and there was a little bit of information given to us about what's going to happen at Hard Times 2. So before we get into all of that, let's get through our intro. All right, guys, we are back. Now, Dark and Elevation had a few things here and there that kind of stood out to me. Before we talk about any of that, remember, guys, hit that like button, comment, share, subscribe if you have not already. Also, consider joining our Patreon. Minimum tier, our entry tier is $3 a month. It gets you access to so much more than we are able to do here on YouTube. So consider joining if you have not already. I promise it'll be worth the, cup of coffee a month. I don't drink coffee, so I don't really know 100% what the prices are off the top of my head. But anyway, what we do know prices of are, what we do know the prices are of, you know what I'm trying to say, is the Hardy Family Office, and they have a match against the Dark Order, Alan, Angels, Uno, Stu Grayson. It's going to be one of the themes of this episode of Dark Powerrr when we talk about Dark and Elevation, is talking about the Dark Order, because Hardy Family Office with Matt, Blade, and Isaiah Cassidy have a trios match against Alan, Uno, and Grayson. They're going to pick up the win against Alan on Elevation. Also on Elevation in our main event is going to be John Silver versus QT Marshall. I saw a really fun fan theory that is pointing out that where AEW is going to next for different episodes of Dynamite are different hometowns of Dark Order members. And starting next week, we're going to see Brian Danielson, my bad, I don't want to dead name the guy, going up against members of the Dark Order as we build towards that match against good old Hangman Adam Page, our new AEW World Champion. So it's no surprise that John Silver is going to get the main event win here on Elevation, and then on Dark, he's going to have a long-form match against Peter Avalon, getting more wins under his belt, as well as getting more time in front of the audience. Also, as part of this, talking about the Dark Order, the Acclaimed are going to take on the Dark Order, Colt, and Alan Angels 5. This is a pretty good match. The best part of it is, as always, the Acclaimed's wrap to the ring, which I don't know if that's a bad thing, a good thing, whatever the case may be, but it's getting over. And as long as you're getting over, I suppose that's really the name of the game. And finally, the last thing that stood out to me was a 8-man tag match. The Nightmare Family of Glock Anderson's child, Brock Anderson, or Baby Glock, teaming with Lee Johnson, as well as the Varsity Blondes, taking on the Wingmen and two members of the Factory in Camarado and Solo. This was a kind of a chaotic car crash match, but it did have some pretty good redeeming qualities, which is kind of what I have to say about this week's episode of NWA Power Surge. We start off with a match that is between Slice Boogie and JTG. The match is going just fine, and it's actually I think, the longest match of the night in over 8 minutes. But during the course of the match, we're going to see Colby Carino come out to help JTG to try to distract Slice Boogie, and then Saul Renaro come out to distract JTG for Slice Boogie. Now, it's an interesting situation because I think we talked about this during the tag title tournament, or the number one contender tournament, is that Saul is a face paired with a heel and Slice. Colby is a heel paired with JTG, who is a face. So it's kind of strange pairings. They're trying to make it work. I can't fault them for that. But because of that, the two team members are going to end up getting into the ring. There's going to be a little bit of chaos. And while nobody is realistically going to cause a disqualification, it is going to be enough for the ref to throw the match out and give us a no contest. So the longest match of the night goes for a no contest. That's a little underwhelming. Next, we have Kiera Hogan taking on Kenzie Page. This one is a quick match. I think this was about 4 minutes long. And it was all right. Nothing too crazy here. Kiera Hogan picking up the win, kind of as we expect her to do. I mean, I don't know how well Billy Corgan has all these things mapped out timeline-wise. So did he know he was going to put this match on after he had Kenzie Page lose a 2 out of 3 falls match the week prior to Camille? I don't know. But Kiera Hogan is definitely the person here who looks strong. Maybe it's a way to make Kiera Hogan look even better because she is able to beat the former #1 contender so quickly. Who knows? One other thing to note is that it's a little weird to be making Kiera Hogan look so strong considering she's now pretty much with AEW. But hey, talent sharing is still a thing with the Forbidden Door, so who knows if that's how all of it's going to work. But speaking of talent sharing, our next match is also involving somebody who is kind of an AEW person now, and that is when Sky Blue takes on Melina. And Sky is slowly becoming more and more of a name in the wrestling world. She's gotten some crazy good endorsements from Thunder Rosa. It's always important when you get an endorsement from Thunder Rosa due to their connection with Mission Pro Wrestling, who is one of our partners. Also, Sky Blue has been putting on a pretty good, building that resume out of matches. And now she's kind of with AEW, and she's going to be with Warrior Wrestling coming up soon in December, another one of our partners. So hopefully we'll be on the lookout for her there. But this match is kind of what you expect. It's Melina being able to kind of handle the younger rookie upstart kind of story that they're going for. And we are basically just building Melina as she gets closer and closer to taking on Camille at Hard Times. But speaking of Hard Times, we get a video of what happened after By Any Means Necessary. So Murdoch's in the cage. If I remember right, he came and kind of was helping Crimson after the Jack Stain Crimson match. He's taking a picture with fans inside of the cage. Always a dumb move. But, I guess Murdoch now is an idiot. Is a babyface idiot. I don't know exactly. Like, he just lost his intelligence. But anyway, someone who didn't lose their intelligence is Mike Knox, who makes I want to say a return to, it's got to be a return to the NWA. It was just, he was on there before we started reviewing it together as a group, as a family, as part of the True Heel YouTube family. But Mike Knox makes his return. He attacks Murdoch. He locks himself in the cage with Murdoch, wails on him with a chair, etc., etc. Tim Storm comes out because he is the NWA Papa. He's the NWA grandfather, who's there to take care of all the faces and make everybody's boo-boos go away and root for people. Is there to kind of save Murdoch? They're choking out. Knox is choking out Murdoch in front of, I think it was his son, or somebody who is of a suitable age for it to tug on the heartstrings. But after this, they cut back to Joe Galli, who has been kind of introducing matches throughout this episode of Power Surge, as he is wont to do during Power Surge episodes. And we find out that it's going to be Knox versus Murdoch at Hard Times 2. And it just doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't sit well with me. Because we know that Pope has his championship opportunity. We know that it was the first week of By Any Means Necessary that Pope kind of had to take a phone call and leave the desk, and we kind of still need to know what that was about. Now, we'll say this: if Mike Knox coming back and getting a title shot is part of Pope's heel turn, all is forgiven. I'll forgive you for that. Because that makes sense. It works for what that phone call was. Maybe that was Mike Knox calling Pope. And it works as for Pope's actual heel turn, because part of the heel turn would have to involve the fact that Pope said, "Now listen here, Daddy." I'm not going to do an impression of Pope. That's all I'm going to do, because he's kind of doing an impression of Dusty. But his whole thing was, I'm going to challenge you face to face. So when he turns heel, it should be because he attacks him from behind. And what better way to attack him from behind than to send somebody to soften him up? Now, it naturally works for a progression because Pope isn't going to send somebody in there to take out Murdoch that he thinks Murdoch is going to lose to. He wants him to maybe soften him up. Maybe he wants him to maybe he does want him to win, and he's going to challenge Mike Knox, finger poke of doom, and we're off to the races of the demise again of the NWA. But it's more of a situation where maybe it's just going to be a dirty finish, a dusty finish, a situation where the match is literally just there to cause the disqualification so that Mike Knox can beat the shit out of Murdoch, and then Pope can come in there to do what he does. And it would work out great if the ending of Hard Times 2 involves Mike Knox beating up Murdoch. Murdoch wins, but then Mike Knox is attacking him after the bell. Pope comes out to make the save, but then turns on Murdoch and invokes his championship opportunity from the championship series win. And we know that going into the new year, that is going to be the feud. That would work out, and I wouldn't be mad at that. Finally, in our main event, we have the End, Odinson and Pero taking on the Hawks, Aerie, PJ Hawks, and Luke Hawks, who I promise I will remember who is who this time, between father and son. Right here, you can see Luke Hawks in the ring with PJ on the apron. Nailed it. And this is going to be kind of what I'm starting to consider a classic, quote-unquote classic, Hawks-Aerie match, which is basically we're going to let PJ get the shit kicked out of him for a lot of this match, and so we can do the story of tugging on dad's heartstrings of having to watch his son get his handed to him in the ring and hope that Luke can make the tag in. And it works. It's fine. It's a great storyline because it's natural. Like every parent is going to be like, oh my God, that's my kid. Luke, get in there and save our baby. Save our baby. It's like Tim Storm coming down to the ring for Trevor. But it's interesting because here we have a team that has randomly turned heel for no reason. Like, not necessarily turned heel. They're being assholes. There's a difference between turning heel and just being an asshole. Like, what's a great example? Surprising that I'm going to be the one who I'm going to come up with this as an example. But when CM Punk was having his 434 record-setting modern-day era reign as WWE champion, before he actually turned heel, when he was in the face portion of it, like the first half, he was kind of an asshole. Like he had sarcastic moments. He had moments where he was being a dick, and he didn't apologize for it. And that's kind of what Odinson and Pero are doing. They're not necessarily being heels. They're just saying, we believe in ourselves, we're super cocky, and we're confident, and maybe you can see that we could turn heel down the road. And the reason why it seems weird is because, one, they're going to win this match, and two, they're going to now be in a program or a feud or a match or a title situation or entanglement, if this was the Smith family, with La Rebellion. And La Rebellion, last time we saw them, really were heels. I mean, except for that random-ass time when they showed up back in America after they said they were going to Mexico. But when they went to Mexico, it was because they were being heels. They didn't want to face anybody from the NWA because nobody in the NWA was on their level. They actually were being heels because they were being assholes. Now I'm confusing my own terminology. But you know what I'm trying to say. Like, they actually were doing heel shit, and they were attacking people. They were cheating in the match with Aaron Stevens and Kratos in order to get the tag titles. They cheated when they attacked people when they were making their debuts, when they were doing all those sorts of things. So, yeah, it made sense for them to be heels. Now, all of a sudden, they have this return for no apparent reason. They don't do anything different necessarily. Like, there's no reason for us to be like, okay, what's going on here? But they're slightly, I guess, not assholes. Or they're not heels. So it's a little bit less of a heel. Meanwhile, we have Odinson and Pero who randomly get really, really angry at Billy Corgan. Billy Corgan is correctly pointing out on commentary that he has no idea why they're really angry with him. And it's just that part of it feels a little trite. because it's like, do we really need another group or another tag team or just people being upset and saying that Corgan is screwing them or Corgan is being mean to them? We just went through all of that with Strictly Business and Conspiracy Corgan. So that part of it feels a little, if you're going to do it, at least do it with people who are good on the mic. And Aldis is phenomenal on the mic. And Latimer, at least, is better than Odinson and Pero. So that part of it felt weird, but it was a 5-minute match or under 5-minute match. We get the result that we're supposed to get, which is Odinson and Pero being the number one contenders to the tag titles, because as much as I like Hawks Airy, PJ's just not ready for a title shot yet. Maybe that could have been the story, but it's not, because we know that La Rebellion have been kind of repositioned as faces, so they should be going up against a heel team. It doesn't make sense for Odinson and Pero to have turned heel, if not to get this win. And they do get the win. And we are going to get the win when Hard Times rolls around December 4th. I think next week we'll get more information on matches. We know that we're going to have Melina versus Camille for the Burke. We know that we're going to have Mike Knox versus Trevor Murdoch for the 10 pounds of gold, Sweet Charlotte. We know that we are going to get Odinson and Pero versus La Rebellion for the tag titles. I would not be surprised if we get Slice Boogie and Saul Renaro versus JTG and Colby Carino just as a tag match, kind of a grudge match kind of situation. We're going to get Scion versus the Masked Man. He is the Masked Man. Scion versus Tyrus for the NWA TV title. We don't have a national title match yet. That might be Jedias cashing in his shot. We'll have to see. But we'll do our predictions for that pay-per-view next week. And I want to thank you guys for tuning in once again to an episode of Dark Powerrr. I'm looking forward to seeing more of this potential theory with the Dark Order coming out more on Dark and Elevation, seeing if, I think it was, so I think after next week, they're in Georgia. So I think it's going to be Allen Angels that gets the match, not next week, but the week after. But see, it's going to be interesting because Winter is Coming is supposed to be December 15th. So we'll have to see. It's quickly approaching. Quickly approaching. But I trust Tony Khan way more than I trust Billy Corgan at this point. Which is not to say that I don't trust Billy Corgan. I mean, I trust Billy Corgan more than I trust Vince McMahon, which I wouldn't trust Vince McMahon with anything. So, alrighty, guys. Until next time, thank you for tuning in. Remember to take care of yourselves and each other. I'll catch you later. And